Hi everyone and welcome to Tech with Jack. Today we're going to be starting Xcode and Swift tutorials. So the first thing we need to do for this is we're going to go to our App Store and we're going to go Xcode. If you haven't already got it installed, you just want to download and install this one here. Then once you've done that, you want to open up Xcode and then you want to create a new playground, which is how we're going to be learning Swift just to start with. And that's how you create a new project. To create a new playground, you go File, New Playground, or Option Shift Command N. We're just on a blank OS playground, which is fine. I'm going to save it in. I'm going to save it as Learning Swift in our Learning Swift path on our desktop, and let's create that. And here we have our very first playground. What Playground is it's essentially a way for us to run Swift without compiling a full-blown app, because that takes a lot of processing time. And so what we can see here is we have var_str equals hello playground, and that's a very good thing to start with, variable declaration. We used a var keyword, like in many languages, to declare something that is a variable. In Swift, if you wanted to make this a constant, we would use let. We'll just use var for now. We're using str, which is the name, and then we're setting it to the string hello playground. And again, as in many languages, but not PHP, you can use single quotes or double quotes, it doesn't really matter. I prefer using double quotes. And then here, because Swift is a statically typed language, currently str, if you option click on it, you can see it's a string. We've got that implicitly declared from this because this is a type string. But if you want to explicitly declare it and make it more readable, then we just do :string, like that. Swift, this is my variable str, and it is a string. Because Swift is statically typed, if we want to explicitly declare the variable, then we just do :string. And unfortunately, of course, the type has to, match the value. So if we tried declaring this as, for instance, an integer, then it will give us an error. So if we try to run it with command N, we'll just see, cannot convert. If we try declaring it as type int, we see cannot convert value of type string to specified type int, because this cannot be passed as an integer. It is a string. That's why we need to declare it as a string. Next thing we're going to look at is some functions and built-in functions. First one is probably the best and most simple. It's called print, and it simply prints it out to the console. So if we do print str, and we show the developer console, which you can do Command-Shift-Y, then all we need to do is we can hit run on this little taskbar, and then it'll run this code, and it will give us an output in the developer console, which will hopefully be this string hello playground. And there we go. It's run, and it's printed out hello playground. You might also be wondering what this in the sidebar is. Well, if we look at it, we have hello playground on the variable declaration line. So it tells us the value of the variable is hello playground. This can be quite useful if we don't explicitly assign the value, if we don't know the value at the time it's being assigned. For instance, if we chose a random number, and we didn't print it, if we just ran the code, we would see that hello playground would just turn to that number, but we wouldn't even be able to print the number. Let's do that now. So if we say var random number is going to be an integer, and it's going to be equal to arg for random uniform, I'll just have an upper bound of 3 for the time being. So if we run that, we'll see that we got 2. We didn't even see the output, but we know that this is equal to 2. So that's a useful thing to do with Swift. And you'll notice that I set it explicitly as uint32. It's something I like to do because it just makes me sure. It's just preference. You can choose whether to keep that as uint32 or just delete it and let type inference do the work for you. Now let's look at some more complex things. First off, we'll start by declaring a function. We do it with the func keyword, and then the name of the function, and then any parameters. We'll start with no parameters, and then a return type. We'll start with no return type either, and we'll just do print I am inside a function. And then to call that, we do it as we do any function. We just do name of the function like that. And if we run this, we'll hopefully see this line, I am inside a function, print it out to our developer console. There we go, I am inside a function. Perfect. Now, let's look at the first step, parameters. Let's say we want to pass a parameter str, obviously type string, and we want to print that out. What we do here is we do print str, and then we can pass our string str hello, and then we run that. We'll see this string pass through there, and then printed to the developer console like that. Perfect. What if we don't want this label? What if we don't like str? We know it's always going to be the string that we want printed. Well, in that case, we can suppress the parameter label by putting an underscore and a space before the name. So we can still reference it as str inside the function, but if you leave this run, we'll see extraneous argument label str in call. This means that we don't need the label str. So we can just delete that and call name of the function hello. And then while that's running, we can see that it's passed through. We're using str, we're not calling it str here. That's why we have hello. But what if we want to make it optional? For instance, pass nothing. Then we need to look at a value called optionals in Swift. And these are represented by question marks. So string question mark is this value can either be a string or it can be nil. And you'll see that we got expression implicitly converts from string question mark to any. So this can either be an optional string or it can be an any. And any is Swift's way of saying this is a value. It can be anything. But because this can be nil, and if we use nil, it's just going to crash our program, we need to use something called the nil coercion operator. And so we can either print str, or we can print, so this is a logical OR operator or a nil coercion operator, and then we do nil value passed to. If we do name of the function hello, we'll hopefully see that we get hello printed in the developer console. Pause. But of course, what happens if we don't pass one? Well, we can do that one of two ways. We can either not pass it, like that, and what will this print? This will hopefully print nil value passed to function. Ooh, what happened here? Missing argument for parameter number 1 in call. Well, we can't actually pass no parameter. So we can do that another way, but first let's just do it. So pass nil as the value, and then this will hopefully print nil value passed to function, default value provided. Perfect. But what if we want to be able to set default value if no value is provided? In that case, we'll either have a string, and we'll set a default value to be no value passed to function, default value provided. And then we don't even need this long thing here. But of course, if we still want to pass nil, we can actually still do that. We have an optional string type. This means that it can either be nil or it can be a string. But if it's not passed, we have this value. If it is passed and it is nil, then we have this value. But if it's passed and it's a string, then we have this value. So we have 3 potential values we can print, and each of them come with their own specific message. If we pass nil, then we get nil value passed to function, default value provided. If we don't pass anything, then we get obviously no value passed to function, default value provided. As we can see here, we get no value passed to function. And if we pass a string like hi, then we'll just print that string because it will fall through the optional, it'll fall through the nil coercion, and it'll just print str. Hi. Perfect. That's how functions work in Swift. Now let's look at a separate concept, arrays. But we declare arrays like many other languages. Var array equals that. This will be perfectly fine in many languages such as JavaScript, but Swift doesn't like it. We don't know what type the elements inside the array are. Because if we look at this, we have an array of any. Swift doesn't really like that unless we explicitly declare it. So we need to tell it that this is going to be an array of integers. And then this will forever be an array of integers. And now you might have noticed that when we were looking at array when it had nothing there, we had brackets and any. But what I did was I used array and int. This is your choice. You could either do it array int, explicitly saying it's an array of integers, or you can do it like that, which means exactly the same thing. I just prefer doing array int because it's easier to see at quick glance, because when you start dealing with dictionaries, which look very similar, then tuples, it gets a bit confusing, so array and dictionary, much better. Now, how do we add something to an array? Well, at the start, we can just do 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to be an array of 1, 2, 3, 4. How do we see how many elements are in the array? So first we want to print out the array itself, and then, if we don't get an error here, we can print out how long the array is. We can do print array dot, and then here is another useful feature of Xcode. We can see how many elements are in the array, and we can use the handy description. So we have capacity, the total number of elements that the array contains without allocating new storage. Less useful, count, number of elements in the array. Perfect. So we'll just use that, press enter, print array.count, and then here, hopefully you get 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4, because we have 4 elements in the array. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4. Perfect. Now let's look at programmatically adding things to an array without declaring them at runtime. So what we need to do here is we need to do array.append. And then here is where we pass our new element, and we want it to be, for instance, 5. So we'll do array.append 5. And then if we print array, also I'm sorry if I'm using print too much, which goes against the conventions of a playground. I just like it. See, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we want to remove an element in the array, this is where it gets a little tricky. Let's say I want to remove 5. So we'll print array so we can see that we got 5. And to array.remove. Here's where it gets tricky. Array.remove at array.index of int. Perfect. And here's what we do, 5. And here is where it gets a little tricky. And of course, that works. Brilliant. We use a nil coercion operator here, like we've learnt. Because it's an optional, we either have nil coercion operator or just use 0. So we either remove the array where the index where 5 is, or we just remove the first element. So array.remove, we're removing an element from the array, and removing the element at the index of 5, or we're removing the element at index 0. And what's this here? Index of is deprecated, renamed to first index of. So let's change that. First index of 5. I'll print array. And with luck, this will not give us an error, and it'll just run first time. And here we see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. If we pass an element that is not in the array, such as 6, then hopefully this will remove 1, and so we'll be left with 2, 3, 4, 5. And there we are, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how we add and remove elements from an array. And there are lots of other array methods as well. You can just see them if you take the dots after an array and you press escape on your keyboard. You'll see all these. And these are all the new array. These are all the array methods. The last thing we're going to look at in our introduction to Swift tutorial is dictionaries. And dictionaries are things that can store values with keys, not just indices. Of course, they're unordered sets of items. So we'll declare our first one, var myDict equals a dictionary. And the empty dictionary literal is like an array, but with a colon in the middle. And let's see, will Swift give us another error? Wait for it. There we go. Empty collision literal requires an explicit type. So let's declare what type we want it to be. We want to reference the items. So we want dictionary. We want the key to be a string, and we want the value to also be a string. And that's how we declare the types for our dictionary. So then we can start putting things in. So at runtime, what we want to do here is name. So we want to do person1. I know this is a bad example, but we have Jack. And then if we want to make it look better, we can just do that. Person2 computer. As everyone knows, I have no friends, so that's why I just have 2 of those. And then we can print out my dictionary. And if we run that, we'll see person1 Jack, person2 computer. Right. These do have these have been placed in order, but they're not always going to be in order. I don't know what the specific sorting method is. I believe it might be lexicographically, but it's better to assume that they're never going to be ordered, which is very useful. So here, what we can do is we can add things to it later. So if we have person 1 Jack, we print my dictionary, and then we do my dictionary person 2 equals computer, and then we print it out again. Here we'll see that we'll start with person 1 Jack, and then we'll add another property, person 2 computer. See, person 1 Jack and person 2 computer. That's how dictionaries work. Now, if we want to remove a key, and therefore the value for that key from a dictionary, it's fairly complex. So let's start. We do mydict.remove at an index. This is interesting. Remove value for key. We want to remove the key as well. That's just removing the value. And this is also a bit better because we can see how the Xcode way works. Remove at dictionary string.index and place it on source file. That's because we just have this, which is a placeholder. And so if we hit enter here, we don't want that because dictionary string is the same type up here. So we want mydict.index. We want to find the index. For key person 2. Perfect. Now will this run? Oh no. Value of optional type must be unwrapped. That just means we need to put either an exclamation mark or a nil coercion operator. And now will this run? Let's see. Can I convert type value type int? So this to expected argument type dictionary string.index. Here's where we see a property come into play. mydict dot, and we want to find the starting index. This will either remove person 2 or it will remove the starting index's value. And so here, if we print my dictionary once more, we'll hopefully see, there we go. We have person 1, person 2, and person 1, and then just person 1 once more. There's some Swift basics, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for 50 subscribers. This is a fantastic achievement, and a huge milestone to overcome for a beginning YouTuber like me. If you guys have any questions regarding the concepts covered in this video, then don't hesitate to leave a comment down below. I'll respond to you as soon as I can. If you could like this video, subscribe, and share the channel with your friends, that would be awesome. Thank you all so much for watching Tech with Jack, and I will see you in the next video.